As of the day this video is coming out, it is only a couple of days before Halloween, and I felt like doing something a bit festive. So today we aim to find out, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Pennywise? Now this run's a bit of an interesting one because if you've ever seen the It movies, then you know that Pennywise kills people by scaring them. Now this is going to be a little difficult because you can't exactly scare people in Fallout New Vegas. So my workaround for this is that I'm simply going to be trying to dress up as something that would scare someone every time I encounter a different person. Now obviously this doesn't work with everybody, so there are going to be a few portions of the run where I'm kind of just going to gloss over it because I didn't really have anything for that section, but those were few and far between. Anyways, that's enough talking for now, let's start the run. I tried my best to make my character look like Pennywise this time, but understandably this game wasn't designed to make horror movie characters in the character creator, so I kind of just ended up with a normal character that had orange hair and yellow eyes. I'm not too worried about this because I'm going to be spending the majority of this run in costume, so I kind of just moved on from here. As for my special stats, I decided to focus primarily on endurance because I figured the cannibal perk would be a must for this run, as well as a lot in intelligence and strength. Strength for better melee damage, as I figured I'd be using a lot of melee weapons this time around, and intelligence because I need that amount of skill points every single time I level up. When it came to tag skills, I took gun and melee weapons because I figured I'd need them, as well as speech because obviously Pennywise has a pretty good silver tongue, as he's able to talk kids into gutters even though he looks like this. When it came time to select my traits, I figured they didn't really matter, so I just chose to take heavy-handed and wild wasteland. When I exited the doctor's house, for once I didn't make my way to Chet's store, and instead grabbed a costume from a nearby house, which was a Good Springs settler's outfit. I then used said outfit to try and kill Joe Cobb. The problem here was that I accidentally smacked Easy Pete on my way in, and when I did, that made every single one of the Good Springs town folk angry. Now I'm not dressed up to scare them, so I have to kill Joe Cobb before I kill any of them. When I did finally manage to vaporize Cobb, I just picked up his outfit and his magnum and proceeded to clear the town out using those. After leaving Good Springs and Ruins, I made my way to Prim cause no duh. I don't actually want to do the side quest here, the main reason I'm here is because I want to mess with the convicts for a bit. I don't know who they were expecting to come through those doors, but it sure wasn't the sheriff they just murdered. I ended up just making my way through the entire Bison Steve motel with a 357 Magnum and the sheriff's costume that I picked up from the dead sheriff, and I figured that fit the run pretty well. When it came to Deputy Beagle, I let him get super close to the entrance before shooting him in the head, because he was afraid of not getting out of the area. I didn't actually help the townsfolk and promote Prim Slim just because I don't really think it fits the run to do this many side quests, so I kinda just made my way through the town all the way to the Mojave Outpost. Now, despite what I just said about side quest, as soon as I got to the outpost, I accepted everyone in my immediate vicinity and started doing them. The first one I did was, of course, the ants. Now, the problem with this quest is that ants don't really have a fear, so these are one of those things I kind of just have to do. So I used whatever I had on me to kill them. Next up was Recon and Nipton, which wasn't too difficult considering I had an NCR uniform, which I used to kill Volpes and his people. On my way there, I did manage to take out a jackal who was carrying a cowboy repeater, which was nice because this is one of those guns that I could use regardless of who I'm dressed up as, since everybody uses cowboy repeaters. The fight with Volpes wasn't too complicated as a cowboy repeater in early game is pretty good, so I was able to kill him in a few shots before I moved on to his men. Out of everything there, the powder gangers ended up giving me the most trouble. Even though they were all tied up, I kept accidentally targeting them in vats, which would make me waste a shot. Eventually, I did get over this and started killing the Legion, and I was slowly saving up my XP so I could get the cannibal perk eventually. When I got back to the outpost, I refrained from killing everybody right then and there, mainly because, let's face it, I've never gone through a playthrough without using Major Knight at least once. Instead, I started making my way to the strip so that I could start progressing the story along. I decided that the people of Sloan should probably die, so, well, I killed them. Although their immediate fear is Deathclaws, I sadly cannot turn into a Deathclaw and kill them, so instead I just use my Legion disguise to take them out. I've made my way through the Deathclaw territory many times, so I don't really need to go over this. Instead of making my way to the strip immediately, I decided to stay in Freeside for a bit and torture the kings. I really wish I could turn into their biggest fear, the toilet, while I was here and use that to torment them all, but sadly I can't. This is one of those areas I don't really have anything to use, so I kind of just went in with a sledgehammer and killed them all. One of you guys in the comments are probably going to tell me, oh, why didn't you use this? Well, just know that I couldn't really think of everything for everyone, so I kind of just winged it for some of these groups. Keep in mind there are a lot of people in New Vegas, so this might happen a couple times. After I dealt with the kings, I decided I'd try to take out the gun runners, which, well, it didn't go so well. First, I tried to take them out on a frontal assault, which didn't work at all. I then tried to recreate the Dairy Ironworks in that I placed a bunch of mines down and waited for them to blow up, which didn't work either. I ended up having to give up on the whole idea just because, let's be frank, I was too weak to take out the gun runners, so I instead made my way into the strip. If you couldn't already tell, my goals for this run is simply to kill and eat pretty much everyone I see, so I decided to start doing that in the strip. I started with the tops because of story reasons. When I got there, I don't actually have to do anything in particular, mainly because, well, Benny would be afraid of the courier he shot. I am the courier he has shot, so technically I could use anything. I decided to use the most, I guess, New Vegas items I had, which was just my 357 Magnum, 9mm pistol, and leather armor. Benny can be a bit of a pushover, especially when you're a couple levels in the game, so I was able to take him out pretty quickly, as well as the entirety of the tops. I did get killed a few times when I went out into one of the courtyards, and some of them had 44 magnums, but I ended up just powering through that area anyways. After the tops, I made my way to the white gloves because, well, they're going to be the easiest besides the tops. All I did was put on my dirtiest looking outfit, grabbed a lead pipe, and started hopping on their tables until they got mad enough to shoot me. When they did, I started beating them senseless with the lead pipe, and, well, it had very good results. By now I have a fairly decent melee skill and the Super Slam perk, so there really was nothing they could do. The Amuras were a bit more trouble, as there isn't exactly anything you could do to scare them. I didn't really do anything too special for them, I just put on some tops gear and then went in there guns blazing. It had, well, mixed results because some of the Amuras could take me out in seconds, while others died very quickly. Eventually I was able to make my way through the entire casino, marking the last place in the strip cleared. The slaughter did not stop there, however. Instead, I made my way to Novak to start bullying the poor people there. I first started with Ranger Andy because I figured I could upgrade my NCR uniform that way, and I just killed him as a legionary. I really would have liked to place a frag grenade at his feet and watch history repeat itself, but sadly I sold all my frag grenades before I went there. Next was Boone, who I just put on some slave rags and then shot in the back of the head with a hunting rifle, and then I made my way to Manny, who I also shot with a hunting rifle, this time disguised as Boone. After I was finished with Novak, I figured I'd make my way to Camp Golf, as it's pretty close by. I do have a very specific reason for coming here, but it'll come up later in the run. I didn't do much here other than loot for a bit, but the main thing I was here for was to get to Chief Hanlon. When I got there, I just dressed up as himself and stabbed him in the back. I would have loved to have killed him with his Ranger Sequoia, but sadly he had it equipped, and if I tried to disarm him while he had it, the entirety of the NCR would be after my liver. After I left Camp Golf, I made my way back to the strip to go to the NCR embassy, where I was supposed to kill Crocker. Sadly, he never became one of the victims of this run, simply because as soon as you kill him, you get vilified by the NCR, well, if your rep is low enough at any rate. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to kill him. I really want to stay on good terms for the NCR, at least for now, so I'm gonna want to keep him alive just for a little bit longer. Truth be told, I never came back to him, so it's a bit of a shame. Instead of killing Crocker, I made my way to the Boomers, which I figured would be my next stop, as I figured I should start getting factions out of the way now. The Boomers were an easy target considering their whole thing is that they're scared of everybody, so I just dressed up as everybody and pulled out my trusty lead pipe again. Most of the Boomers outside were pretty easy, as when you charge them with a melee weapon, they aren't too keen on using their explosive weapons. This is simply because they don't want to get their legs blown off. Sadly, this didn't work inside the munitions hall, mainly because there were so many Boomers, and they didn't quite get the memo of not blowing people's legs off. They seriously had no regard for the other Boomers' legs, so every time I got within a certain range of the area, everything blew up. The trick to this was hiding in one of the back doors and waiting with a melee weapon until they funneled into there eventually. I did try to set another dynamite trap, but sadly this one was about as effective as the first. After I cleared out the munitions hall, the Boomers were no more, and I was ready to move on to the next faction. The next unlucky group I came across was the Great Khans, and their fears were very simple. NCR First Recon. It was very obvious from the very beginning, so I just put on Boone's beret, as well as my ranger clothes, and just started going nuts with the hunting rifle. To be fair to the Great Khans, they pulled out their trump card and tried to crash my game, and it was very effective. Sadly, it was only delaying the inevitable, and before long I was back at Red Rock. We all know how Pennywise feels about tribals, so in short I had some Great Khan num-nums. Next group to go was the Brotherhood, and their fears were obvious if nothing else. For them, I just used technology getting in the wrong hands, because that's kind of their whole shtick. This one was a little complicated as I didn't really have any high-tech weapons on me. The most technological thing I had on hand was a Fat Man. I used that to absolutely demolish the Brotherhood on the first level, before grabbing a tri-beam laser rifle and sort of sneaking my way to the bottom level. I have absolutely no points in energy weapons, so trying to take them down with that tri-beam laser rifle would have been suicide. Now if there was some sort of high-tech melee weapon, say a rocket-powered sledgehammer, now that would be a different story. The super sledge made very short work of everyone on the bottom floor, naturally it being a super sledge and I having the super slam perk. I wasn't stupid enough to try to take out the people on the first floor, mainly because, well, the turrets were still active, and I do not have that great of armor right now. I made sure to pick up some recon gear for later, mainly because I plan to make my way to the 188 trading post after this. Getting the Elder's keycards weren't too complicated considering I just had to make my way through the bottom floor, and before long the bunker was making a very loud noise signifying that I'd done my job. The first floor was obviously a bit more trouble than the bottom, but the main reason I was able to get through was because I had a couple atomic cocktails on hand. I just used those in a stealth boy to sneak through the entire bunker before getting out. With that, the bunker blew up, and I made my way to the 188 trading post like I said I would. The main reason I'm there, of course, is to kill Veronica, because she missed out on all the fun in the bunker. I just used a Brotherhood gear and a laser rifle to take her down. After this, I made my way to Boulder City because it's right there and I figured I could use the XP. As soon as I got to Boulder City, I shot the memorial in my NCR gear because I wanted to piss off Private Kowalski. I like to imagine when he was running towards me, it was because he thought I was his brother, so that explains why he ran in fear when I stabbed him. Private Kowalski was actually one of my favorite kills in this run, mainly because I got him with a 10mm pistol as he was running, in third person, which is not exactly an easy feat. Inside the ruins, I had the Great Khans to contend with, but they weren't a problem in Red Rock, so they weren't about to start being one. Once again, I put on my first recon gear and took them all down with my hunting rifle. By now, it's completely kitted out, so they really standed no chance. After I was finished in Boulder City, I finally made my way to the fort to start doing quests for Caesar. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you were expecting me to side with Yes Man, but I decided the Legion would be my faction for the day. In the end, it came down to Yes Man or the Legion, and I ended up choosing the Legion mainly because I've done Yes Man in my last 2 runs, and although it is my favorite ending, I don't want to use him for 3 videos in a row. I've already finished all of Caesar's quests, besides the surgery and the assassination, so I really just had to talk to him, wait, and then talk to him, and eventually he started dying. When I had to get the medical supplies, I just hunted down some wild doctors and procured them from there. I then did Caesar's surgery, which didn't go so well. Maybe they shouldn't have hired the alien death clown to do a brain surgery. I was a little afraid after I finished the surgery that I would have to do Yes Man after all because the Legion opened fire on me, but it turned out all I had to do was murder Caesar in his sleep and pass a speech check, which wasn't too hard. Despite the fact I clearly just murdered their boss, the Legion went ahead and gave me the next most important task of killing the president. I'm gonna go ahead and cut things short here. I never got around to the assassination. Put simply, this is New Vegas, so naturally there was a glitch to block me. Basically, when I got to the quest, when I had to talk to the Legionary there, I did, but it never quite registered that. Meaning that whenever I got to the area where President Kimball's supposed to land, the NCR would either open fire on me, or President Kimball would never land. This was unfortunate because I really was looking forward to assassinating the president and even picked up an outfit for it, but there's really nothing I could do about it. It's not like I could reload a save, as my last save was pretty far back. Altogether, I was a little disappointed about what happened with the assassination, but I guess it's time to move on to Hoover Dam. I'm not gonna lie, this is my first time ever doing the Legion ending, not just in a video, but also in general, so I was a bit shocked when I did Hoover Dam a bit backwards. Although this was pretty cool, basically I just had to deal with a lot of NCR, so I ended up wearing a Legion costume for most of Hoover Dam. That isn't to say it was easy, as it was actually pretty difficult to make my way through, but luckily I picked up and fully repaired a trail carbine a little while ago, so I was able to use that to carve a path through the dam. What ended up giving me the most trouble was the NCR snipers on top of the tower, which I ended up finding a kind of weird way to take them out. They would bob in and out of cover a bit too quick for me to actually kill them, so what I ended up doing was shooting their weapon until they dropped it off the building, which made it a lot easier to cross the dam. Inside, most enemies were in close quarters, so I was able to use either my super sledge or once again my trail carbine to kill everyone in the area. I was able to pick up and fully repair some NCR veteran armor, which I was able to put to good use later. Inside Oliver's compound, the general did his best at being an intimidating boss like Lanius, but ultimately failed. The first challenge of the area is just to take down a bunch of NCR troopers in close combat, which isn't exactly difficult for me. Next up was a couple veteran rangers, which I just took down in my Legion armor. This would have been a lot simpler if my armor hadn't long since been broken, so I ended up getting killed a few times while here. The final thing was Oliver, and I had saved a very special outfit for this. Remember when I killed Chief Hanlon all that time ago? Yep, this is why. I ended up putting on Chief Hanlon's clothes as well as picking up a Fat Man and using that to absolutely eviscerate Oliver. The heavy troopers aren't anything nearly as challenging as the fight with the Legate, so I kinda just made my way through here. Instead of dressing up as a legionary here though, I instead put on my NCR veteran gear, mainly because of two reasons. A, the heavy troopers mentioned that they're scared of the NCR veterans, and B, my Praetorian armor broke a little while ago, so I cannot wear that currently. After I dealt with the heavy troopers, I made my way outside, talked to Legate Lanius, finishing the game and proving, yes, you can beat Fallout New Vegas, as Pennywise. Yeah, this was a bit of an odd one. It's always nice to do one of those sort of out there runs occasionally, and I was glad I was able to do something for Halloween. Something I'd like to quickly address before I end off today's video is I'm sure some of you are expecting me to do a cannibal only run for this. Even though I really wanted to do this, I couldn't pull it off mainly because I had to switch my outfit and weapons so often, I was taking way too much damage to actually heal through it. This run was complicated enough without those extra rules, so I figured it'd be fine if I didn't do it. Regardless, that is all I have for today's video. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing, otherwise I'll catch you in the next one.
Not the Bob's Furniture jump scare!
Happy Halloween, everybody.